Hi, I'm Mark from Livewell CPAP and Medical Supply, and today I want to do a quick comparison of kind of the newer design on the market. I say newer design, it's been out for quite a few years, but it's kind of the design that people are flocking to, I would say, is when they get a chance to try the tube up design. And the two nasal masks that I'm looking at and I'm going to compare today are the Dreamwear nasal, and it comes in two options. The first one that I'll go over is the Dreamwear, and a couple of things that I really like about the Dreamwear. Number one, just like the N30i and P30i, you have two options as far as a cushion. You've got the pillows, and then you've got kind of more of a cradle cushion. They call it a nasal cushion for billing purposes, but it just wraps around your nose. Nice thing about this is it's very comfortable. Your nose, you can barely feel that it's there. Now, the downside to this is a lot of times for side sleepers, and this goes for both tube up style masks. And I'm going to put the Dreamwear on here. But for side sleepers, a lot of times as they lay on their side, that's going to move off here. You can see the gap right there, and then it leaks. Obviously, I don't have this super tight, and it's a little over exaggerated, but it gives you the idea of kind of how that is and how that works. So the nice thing about having a nasal pillow option is that it sits in your nose. There's more of an anchor, so when you're on your side, it doesn't move as much. You don't get the leakage that you do a lot of times from the cradle masks, although the cradle masks can be very comfortable. As far as design differences between the N30i and the Dreamwear masks, the Dreamwear cushions are very flat that I've noticed, so they work very well on folks typically with kind of a broader nose bridge, but maybe not quite as tall a nose bridge. The other thing that I like about the Dreamwear mask is the pillows. You'll notice on here, it's just a single wall pillow. And a lot of reports that I've heard from folks that don't like, and I'm gonna hold up the P30i pillow here. You can see these have a dual wall cushion. Nice thing about that dual wall cushion is it keeps a better seal a lot of times, but people will give me feedback saying that it's harder to exhale out of the dual wall cushions versus just the single wall cushion. So you have upside and downside for each one. So your folks that are having a hard time exhaling through the dual wall pillows, maybe try these. And Again, I've heard a lot of feedback saying that it's a lot easier to breathe through the single wall cushions. The other thing I like about the Dreamwear is you do have these arms that have just recently come out, and I say recently, a couple of years. But the nice thing about this is, especially for women who have long hair, and obviously I am not a woman who has long hair, but in the back, a lot of times the previous Dreamwear and the N30i will slide up, whereas this is down kind of at the base of your skull. It really keeps it in place, so you can snug that down. Again, downside is it's a little harder up here, but that typically doesn't dig in, and so it does tend to stay a little bit better down below. Couple things that I really like about the N30i that the Dreamwear doesn't necessarily have is the diffusers on both of the cushions. So this, you can see they almost look like filters, and I have a lot of patients that will say, what about these filters? And they're just diffusers. It makes it so you don't roll over and hit your bed partner in the eyeball with a jet of air. You can see those come out. It also makes it a lot more quiet. And so, whereas I'll show you the difference here, this has a straight jet of air out that you can typically feel or hear. And so some people that say they don't like that cold jet of air, I will move them more towards the N30i, P30i. That is one thing I like about the N30i, P30i over the Dreamwear. Another thing that I like is the adapter. So If you squeeze here, this is going to pop out. It's very easy to get back on. A lot of times the Dreamwear will stay in a tube, and it's a little bit harder to get on. The other thing too that I like is when I tell people to wash their frames out, just going to pull the cushions off here. This is a little bit harder to get out, whereas you can just snap that right off if you're washing the frame out. The other thing that I like about the N30i versus the Dreamwear is it does, on the nasal cushion especially, it curves up a little bit. So folks that have a little bit taller nose bridge like me, it wraps around so it doesn't go as side to side as much. And so when you're on your side, it doesn't quite move quite like the Dreamwear does for most patients. And again, my disclaimer, patient to patient, that can change. But two things that, or a few things that I like about each tube up style nasal mask. Now, one other quick thing that I'll add in there is there's been just a brand new recent recall. These magnets that hook here have been recalled. So we have to wait to see what's going to happen there, if Philips is going to come out with new magnets or they're going to redesign the mask. But those have been recalled, which typically I would tell you the other thing I like about the Dreamwear is you can add that on, but not right now with that FDA recall. Reason for the recall on the magnets is they've had concerns that they will interfere with electronic defibrillators and pacemakers, and that's the reason for the recall for those magnets and for the Dreamwear full face, although the Dreamwear nasal is not recalled.